I'd like to call the May 20th meeting of the Lane Transit District Directors to order. We're going to begin with roll call. Susan Cox, I'm here. Michelle Weber.
Here.
Pete Knox.
Here.
Lawrence Green.
Here.
Heather Murphy. She's not coming in, I think. Gino Grimaldi.
Here.
And Kelly Sutherland.
Here.
Great. We're going to now have the public comment, and for those of you attending remotely, please use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to present comments. And we do have a couple of speakers today, so I'd like to invite CJ Mann to provide testimony.
Susan, I believe these are here for a regular public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. But is that what we're doing? Oh, budget. I'm so sorry. That was my fault. I apologize. So we're going to have budget public hearing. For those attending remotely, same thing. Do we have anyone signed up for that?
We have nobody online or in the room for our budget process.
And now, I apologize. Yes. So for regular public comment, CJ Mann, welcome.
Hi, I am speaking on behalf of the Livable Communities Leadership Academy of AARP Oregon. Our ad hoc subcommittee is focusing on transportation issues that affect the livability of a livable community. Our focus has been on improving transportation options to the River Road Santa Clara neighborhoods. Concerns identified at our many neighborhood forums, meetings, and events were specific to the lack of a bus route to serve Emerald Park and of the River Road Park and Recreation District. It is our understanding that LTD is moving forward in preliminary investigations of a possibility of the route that would serve the park, the pool, and the playground along Lake Drive. We are thrilled with this progress. We will continue to partner with LTD and to continue to work in the neighborhoods most likely to use this route. We ask that LTD continue to pursue the potential route improvements. Additionally, this spring and summer, there will be a number of community events that we would like LTD to participate in. This would present ways of developing relationships with the community we hope you will serve in the very near future. If anyone wants to reach out to our committee, we can provide you with dates, times, and contact information for some of the events where tabling would be appropriate and greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Linda Lovick. Welcome.
CEO Austin and directors, I'm here tonight along with CJ to thank you for beginning to pursue restoring this bus stop to the River Road Recreation Center. I've written letters, and Sam KQ responded, and so I'm following up with information that he's passed on to us on behalf of your thinking, I guess I would say. Recently, I was at a River Road Recreation Center event. It was a Saturday morning, and I just about jumped out of my skin. A white LTD bus went down Lake Drive, and I just could hardly believe it. But I inquired and learned that it indeed was a test bus, and the Safety and Testing Committee is considering and active and looking into this. Partly we wanted to just keep faces in front of you all. Who's lobbying, who's activating for this occurrence, for the restoration of bus service to River Road Recreation Center. We will keep coming. We will keep working with you, and hopefully that you'll keep working with us. We're a very, very small little committee. There's actually 3 of us, but we've been mighty in our efforts, and we have the endorsement of course, Jana Weaver, the superintendent of River Road Recreation, Park and Recreation District, and of the River Road Community Organization, ARCO, and we will continue to work with our grassroots level partners and keep coming forward to you, and that's who we are. Whenever you need community participation to move this forward, please know that we are ready and willing and able to do more from the community level. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. We look forward to participation from you on a regular basis, and what a nice message to receive. Thank you. So now we're going to move into board reports, and we're going to start with LCOG. Pete Knox.
Thank you, Chair. LCOG met towards the end of last month. They passed a supplemental budget, but nothing that actually affected LTD.
Okay. Can I just turn to you again for the Metropolitan Committee as well? Thank you.
Thank you again. The Metropolitan Planning Committee approved the the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, that had been in discussion for a while. And a few projects were relevant to LTD that had already been submitted by staff.
Okay, thank you. And the Lane Area Commission on Transportation would be Heather Murphy, but she's not here. And there was also no meeting, so works well. The Strategic Planning Committee, Kelly, can you report on that?
I did not attend the meeting. I'm wondering if Dave Roth is present and could give an update.
He's moving forward.
Excellent, thank you.
If you give me a moment, I was not prepared to provide this update, but you got it? Oh, yeah, may I?
This is teamwork. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jameson. You got my back. Dave Roth, Director of Planning. Yes, so the SPC met on May 5th, and we received an update on the transit shared micromobility project that is underway right now. So that is a project that Cascadia Mobility, the operator of the bike share system, is managing. It's funded by an ODOT grant, and we provided a letter of support for this project, as well as we're providing staff time on the project. And this is helping the region to figure out how to basically integrate transit and the bike share system. And as you might know, we do have some STIF funding set aside, as well as some regional funding set aside to help support that in the coming years. The other item that was in front of the committee on our May 5th meeting was the service policy update. So the service policy is an FTA required policy that every transit agency has. And this provides us with clear guidance in terms of our performance metrics around the fixed route service. So that will be coming back, I believe, to the board later this summer for consideration for adoption. Thank you.
We're going to reconvene on June 5 to finalize the revisions to the bylaws, and then we should be completed with that. Okay, and next, Jameson, would you please provide the CEO report?
Yes, thank you, President Cox, and thank you to the board. Good to see each of you. One of the favorite times of the month, of the meeting, is to recognize an Employee of the Month, and to do that, we invite Daryl Whitaker to come present VITA.
Okay, well, good afternoon, good evening, members of the board, my fellow LTD employees. It's with great pleasure that I present someone that I've worked closely with over the last few years. It's been my honor to share a lot of experiences with her. She brings a great deal of professionalism to her job as a full-time instructor. Comes with a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that I hand off to her. And like I said, it's been my pleasure working with you, Vita. And this honor is very well deserved.
Thank you, Daryl. It is my pleasure. This honor is, I take this very highly. I have a great team that I work with. I'm one of 2 full-time bus operator instructors. And the 3 of us, I think, work really well together. It's a big effort, and I think that we have provided very good training for our bus operators, which in turn helps out our community. And I'm very proud of that. It's one of my probably biggest achievements so far. So thank you, and appreciate the opportunity.
I get you to, we have something, oh, no, we're not done. No, come on, this is the fun part, okay? So this is a pin to recognize. Beautiful. Accomplishment and letter of appreciation. Thank you. And something to do something fun with. And Christmas card, whatever you want to be.
Okay. Can I say something about it?
Sure,
I just want to
absolutely.
say, thank you very much. I've caught a lot of flack from my picture, okay? I was in Paris. This was their fancy latte. There's no alcohol involved in this. It's just coffee, I swear.
Sounds like something we should start doing.
I know, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you both. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Vita. And I agree. We do a good job excellent job on our training. And thank you for your role in that. Yes, absolutely. Moving into the monthly operations performance report here. Just a few things I want to highlight in your packet. You'll see that total ridership from prior year month is up about 0.5%. We talk a lot about gas prices in relation to ridership. We're going to track those, but we're going to track them over time to make sure, see what the correlation looks like. That gets tracked over months. So we're going to continue to do that. But our service had been trending flat to slightly below last year. So this is a good sign in that regard. Our fixed route service is up almost 5%, but we still see our MX, our BRT service down about 5.2%. So we're tracking that as well. And overall, in our mobility services, our on-demand services, our Medicaid, our paratransit, that's about 4.2% up over last year. So we'll continue to take a look at that. One slight tick that we saw go up that had been going down was our absenteeism is a little bit higher this past month. So we'll keep a track on that. We've been talking about that for quite some time because that was really impacting our ability to meet service about a year and a half ago. But I will say that our operator count is at 93% of goal, so we continue to make progress there. So any questions on the operations report? Okay. Moving into the monthly department reports, a couple things to highlight there. We're moving forward with our mobile video surveillance. Our IT team and our operations team is moving forward to get those up and running on our buses, so stay tuned on that. We're excited about that because in conjunction with the capabilities that we have in our operations command center and then having better capabilities on board will help us to monitor service better and provide help in a more efficient way as we operate service. Another thing operationally that's been happening is rider stop announcements. So on our routes in Springfield, we've been announcing the stops on the bus, and that's a great aid for those who have different disabilities. to help to ride the bus. So again, we want to reduce that barrier of being able to use the services. We're seeing a lot of interest or growth of interest in our student pass programs. And interestingly, not just from schools in Eugene, Springfield area, but Pleasant Hill High School is interested in the pass program. Circle of Friends, which is a private institution in Cottage Grove that works with students with disabilities. We spent some time there. They're interested in the program as well. So making those contacts and increasing that awareness and actual usage is looking good. Big thing that we did last month was, or this month rather, was kicked off the Connect 2045 long-range mobility plan work. We've been talking about that for some time. But again, that will take a look at the 20-year horizon on how we meet the needs for Lane County moving forward. And that will also help us determine if we need to consider a redesign of how service runs today. And you heard some of the public comment today around expanding services around the in the Santa Clara area, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. Over in Fleet, the Fleet crane and fall protection system is rolling forward. You'll recall that some of the work on buses is done from the top. So this is a safety safety equipment to protect our fleet mechanics as they perform their work. And then finally on UMO, the fare collection system, the app that we use, we have a tap card system that's on our buses. We have expanded that to all of our services, those that go into the rural services as well. So we're trying to make riding the system as easy as possible. You're going to hear more tonight about our fare roadmap. Dave Roth is going to talk about that. Again, that's going to walk us down the road even farther to understand how do we connect the system of things to allow people to use the service in an easier way. So I'll stand for any questions on the department report. Okay, delegated authority reports. Any questions there? Any of the items? I think they're all. I think, Gino, you may have missed the Gang of Six purchase last time. You asked about that. Yeah, that was on the recent one. We got that by you. All right, so then we'll go into the rural and multilingual service plan. We'll invite Eric Breitenstein and Dave Roth to the microphone.
Good evening, Board. Eric Breitenstein, Director of Marketing.
And Dave Roth, Director of Planning.
So tonight we're going to share an update on our rural and multilingual rider engagement. And the goal is to provide an update on some of these ongoing initiatives and also provide some background on how these engagement efforts inform our service planning work. So we'll also touch on how those engagement efforts promote overall ridership as well. So first I want to start just touching on our mission, vision, values. So we'll go into some of the foundational documents that guide this work, but I want to start here as ultimately what's guiding this work in terms of connecting our community. And that goes for these harder to reach populations as well. So tonight we will provide an overview of some of the plans and studies that inform this engagement work. We'll also touch on the limited English proficiency plan and how that planning or that compliance document also relates to these efforts. And then also provide an overview of some of the specific activities we've engaged in over the past year and a summary of that work. The first document that I want to touch on is the LTD system review. So this is a planning effort that was adopted by this board back in September of 2024. And it assessed the overall effectiveness, next slide please, of existing LTD fixed route services, identified strengths and weakness, or strengths and opportunities of the network, and also developed short and long-term recommendations. So as we institute route changes, this is the document that is informing much of that work. So move on to the next slide here. So want to provide a summary of some of the multilingual engagement that really informed that system review effort. That included onboard and online surveys that were conducted in both English and Spanish. We conducted 2 focus groups with Spanish-speaking populations. And also did a lot of information tabling around the community, both information tabling that was targeted to Spanish-speaking community members, and then made sure that we had Spanish language documentation at all of our engagement activities associated with that effort. Also want to touch on the community engagement framework. This was also known as the Community Outreach and Communications Assessment, or COCA process, that was adopted last year. And this engagement framework informs all of our community outreach work. But there's a few key tenets of this that I think are particularly relevant to our work in engaging harder to reach populations. That includes really the need to listen and co-create solutions, meet people where they're at, and build existing relationships. A lot of what we heard through this effort was the need to engage with communities on an ongoing basis, not only when we have a specific effort or an initiative to seek input on, but build ongoing relationships so that when we do have conversations or needs related to a specific effort, we've built those relationships and can have those conversations in a more informative way. We've also talked about our long-range mobility plan, Connect 2045. Within the scope of this project, there is a lot of multilingual and rural outreach that's built into the scope of that project. So this will set a vision for LTE services for the next 20 years. Within the scope of this public involvement plan that's being finalized right now, we do have scoped at least 4 Spanish language community outreach meetings. All community and writer surveys will be offered in both English and Spanish. And we will ensure that there's rural representation on the Project Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee. Also note that applications are currently open for the Community Advisory Committee. Those are open through May 31st. I encourage the community, this board, to reach out to your networks and promote that effort as well, so we can ensure representation on that advisory committee. Moving on to the Limited English Proficiency Plan. So this is a board-approved LEP plan that's updated every 3 years. This plan provides some guidance in terms of our needs around providing Spanish translation for vital documents. We also strive to go beyond those requirements and really seek to provide translated materials for much of the communication that we send out, but this does provide a baseline for us to meet. Regarding specific tabling efforts, outreach efforts, this includes Spanish-speaking staff attending almost all of our outreach events. In the past year, we engaged with 3,000 or more than 3,000 community members at various cultural events, schools, food pantry sites, serving Spanish-speaking, as well as Mom-speaking populations. So Mom is an indigenous Mayan language, and that has no universally adopted written form. So it's a population that's particularly challenging to communicate with, since much of our materials are in a written format. So we worked with the Rural Organizing Project based out of Cottage Grove to develop a How to Ride video that was translated in Mom to provide information about LTE services to Mom-speaking populations. Then the next slide provides a quick summary of some of the specific efforts. So these really fall within 4 categories in terms of our outreach activities. This includes community resource events, such as engagements with Plaza, engagements with other partner organizations that serve a wide range of audiences, including William Lane, Food for Lane County Mobile Pantries. We also attend specific cultural events, such as Dia del Niño, Hispanic Heritage Night, the Huerta Celebration, and the Harlow Block Party. We, as noted previously, Student Transit Pass and our program to provide transit access for youth is a significant focus area for us. So we ensure that we have materials in Spanish when we're tabling at those schools and promoting that program in particular. And then we also tailor and join some specific bilingual writer engagement events, such as a bilingual writer engagement event that occurred in Cottage Grove a couple of months ago. I do want to conclude just with a quick summary of some of the information that we're sharing through these activities. So that includes talking about plans and studies, and Dave can definitely answer more questions about some of those specific efforts. Recent work included the Lane County Coordinated Plan, and then ongoing and future work is related to Connect 2045 and encouraging community members to engage in that effort. We also share writer engagement, writer education, past program, how to write information. And then for rural services in particular, we are promoting heavily our rural shuttle pilot, the LTE connector in Cottage Grove, as well as our fixed routes that serve rural communities. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I'll step in. So for Connect 2045, the long-range plan, so we're forming two committees, a technical advisory committee that's primarily focused on agency and partner organizations, and then a project advisory committee or community advisory committee that we're looking for members of the whole community that we serve within Lane County. And the commitment specifically is to attend 4 meetings in total, 2 of which will be virtual or hybrid meetings and 2 in person, as well as digesting a lot of material and providing very specific feedback back to the project management team and project committee. I think we'd also expect that these participants would attend some of our open houses that we have, the large-scale public open houses, and be available as a resource. And finally, the last thing I should mention is that this is the second time we've applied an equitable engagement stipend for a committee. So the first time we used this format was during the COCA process, the communications and outreach framework process. And so we'll be doing this as well, offering this up to people who are in need of some additional resources to provide their time to the project.
Just a follow-up to that question, is there some sort of a written outline of those expectations that we could forward out to community members that we know that might have interest?
Yeah, on the project page on the website, and is there a short URL for that we can share?
Yes, there's.
Okay. We'll share it out. There's a detailed description of the project, as well as right now we have the application form for committee members and a description of what that looks like on there.
Okay, great.
May 31 is the deadline?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a hard stop.
Yeah, the first meeting is going to be scheduled in June.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Board. Really great to be here. Cosette Reese, Director of Regional Mobility Management at LTD. I'll be presenting with Dave Roth, who you've already met a couple of times this evening. I'm here to talk tonight, or we're here to talk tonight about one of my favorite subjects, which is fares. I mean, some people don't like to talk about fares. It's kind of like talking about taxes, but I love to talk about fares because fares make such a difference in the experience of our riders. Being able to access our system, being able to travel independently, being able to get out and explore our community. So I love fares, and there's ways of making them better, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight is what is the future of the fare system at LTD, and what's the vision look like, and how do we get where we want to go? So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Over the last couple of years, LTD's been having conversations about what does the future hold in terms of fare collection. Last year, LTD engaged with consultants, Access Planning and Amy Consulting, to facilitate a fare system roadmap, which just completed, and we're going to be sharing this with you this evening. As we approached it, we asked questions such as, what do our customers need our fare system to do and enable in the future? help us understand what kinds of technology and system setup are needed to support the vision. Technology changes so fast. So what's out there and what should we be prioritizing? And then identify what are the steps to implement those different options. So really creating kind of a roadmap and milestones to get us from here to there. So the project, as we reached out to our consultant, we really wanted to keep it high level. So the project was intended to remain high level and include an assessment of our current system, proposed objectives and system requirements, fair system options and evaluation, and a final recommendation and next steps. Sorry. Thank you. So a fair system has many functions and they're all outlined here. So a fully functioning system is required to make the magic happen. Pricing and structure is first. What analysis and process is used to set our fares? How often is our fare policy reviewed? It's been a bit since we've reviewed our fare policy. Fare collection and validation. This is how we collect our fares and how writers validate their fares. Our fare system today, that means our onboard validators. It means our ticket vending machines. It means the fare boxes that are on our system to collect cash. It also means our customer service center, which sells fares, our mobile app for people to use to add fares and to manage their accounts, and even our Tyler cashiering for our point of sale at customer service. So there's many components, all with different functions and all working together to help people get where they need to go. Systems integration and data. So how does our fare system link with LTD? So how does it link with and integrate? Or how doesn't it? And that's a question that we've asked and that we're learning now. Enforcement. If you're not enforcing your fares, what you know is you have a free system. So at LTD, this is monitored by our operators as people are getting on, and then by our public safety who do fare checks, and you all hear about those now and then. And then governance and oversight. At LTD, we have a fare policy. It's currently in our Ordinance 53, set by you, the board. And within LTD, who's responsible for overseeing the system? Who's responsible for making sure that we do our care and feeding to ensure that the system remains in good operations? And then how are we maintaining that system and making sure that we're providing the best access that we can for our customers? So one component, as I mentioned, of the roadmap was to take a look at our current fare system and assess our strengths, weaknesses, and gaps. In the first box, we're kind of highlighting that we have some inconsistent writer experience across the system. So for instance, fare capping only applies on our urban fixed route system. Fares that are paid on other services, even though you can use UMO, but fares that are paid on other services like our Diamond Express, our Rhodey Express, and our Cottage Grove connector don't count toward that fare capping. So there's just some inconsistencies there. That's an opportunity to be addressed in our fare policy. Although our UMO system software provides opportunities for fare capping to day passes and monthly passes, this feature is not available if you're paying cash or if you're using a credit card, say at a ticket vending machine or at the customer service center. So you're not getting the benefits of that fare capping. The second box demonstrates that our UMO software does not accept credit cards nor a mobile wallet, and what that requires is people to download an app. If you're an infrequent user or if you're a visitor to our area, you're not likely to want to download an app, which means you're going to have to pay cash or you're going to have to find another way to pay. And as we expand our role as a mobility manager, having a fare system that allows seamless boarding from one mode to another would be a benefit. Item 3, our system is a hodgepodge today of equipment and software that is not integrated. It creates significant inefficiencies and gaps in useful data for LTD, and it's inconvenient and provides disadvantages for some of our riders. And then in the fourth box, again, with our hodgepodge of our current system, it comes many owners. So within LTD, we have folks in fleet, we have people down at customer service, we have folks in finance, we have folks in marketing who are overseeing our student transit pass, folks who are overseeing our nonprofit pass. How do we better coordinate within LTD, the owners of our fare management system? Our consulting team reached out to other transit agencies who have recently undergone efforts to modernize their fare collection system. Innovations and investments in these areas have resulted in overall better customer experience, provided more flexibility and convenience, such as open payments where you can use your credit card, and mobile wallet, where you can use a mobile wallet to go from one service to another. It provides seamless payments on bikes, trains, and buses. What we have identified is that we have rider gaps. Our current system, though our fare policy and technology limitations creates gaps for riders in terms of equity, people are paying different fares depending on the form of payment used. It also has operational efficiencies. So what we're experiencing is it takes a bit to validate your fare. And if you're in a busy place like University of Oregon, where we have a lot of people boarding at the same time, it creates delays and inefficiencies. And on a system like MX, that can create some significant issues. And then technical obsolescence. UMO is now 7 years old, which in technology years is 70 years old. Our fare boxes we use, that we've been using for many years, are no longer available, and we can't even scavenge parts for those. So we've turned to something different, but not necessarily what we'll be using into the future. And our ticket vending machines are reaching end of life.
All right, thanks, Cosette. So I'm going to carry out the rest of the presentation, and I'm going to start by talking a bit about the engagement that we did. So Cosette mentioned that there were several components to this project, and one of them was some targeted and intentional engagement. And our intent was to be narrow and focused because of the complexities involved with a fare system. So you've heard a bit about all of the different components, and I'm sure you're getting a sense of the scale and the complexity of those here. But we did want to reach out to some of our key partners and stakeholders to hear from them how the system is currently working for them. We also targeted key internal functions and staff members within LTD to get a better sense of their pain points and their experience with the current system. What we heard reinforced our own experience and understanding of the current system. There's opportunities for improvements around customer experience, service integration, and technology efficiencies. There's a need to preserve non-digital payment channels, in other words, cash. And we need to ensure that benefits such as fare capping apply universally across the board, as well as the need to continue supporting vulnerable populations. So you might know that we have relationships with several nonprofits and community-based organizations to distribute subsidized passes. So how might that look different in the future while still maintaining that level of service? We heard opportunities to improve our interactions with institutional partners. So these are folks, our group pass participants, particularly some of the larger institutions like the University of Oregon or our youth pass administrators at the school districts. How can we improve our fare system so that it just works better for them and it takes less time for them to do the administrative work? In that limited outreach and engagement, we developed a set of clear objectives for the preliminary design of the new system, which I'll cover in a moment. But before I do, I just want to emphasize that certainly additional broad-scale engagement is required as we get into the system design. And we will do that. We'll continue that level of engagement through Connect 2045, where we'll be asking the community questions around fare system, as well as individual components in the next steps, which we'll get into later, how those individual work streams will involve their own set of specific engagement. So I mentioned some of the objectives that we developed in that outreach, both internally and externally. Number one, best price for every rider every time. We want to make sure that people are getting their best value for the money that they're paying for their fares. Making sure that paying fares is simple and predictable. And one of the things that we heard multiple times was that paying a fare should be as easy as buying a cup of coffee today. We all know that if you go to a cafe, you can tap your phone on the credit card machine and you pay for your beverage or your food that way. We can do that as well with transit. We just need the right tools to do it. One connected journey across services. So this is something I'm happy to say we've made some progress on recently by introducing the fare validators on some of our contracted services and partner services like Link Lane, Diamond Express. But we have the opportunity as we're designing the new system to bring that up to the next level as well and make sure that those services, people paying for those services are eligible for some of the benefits like fare capping, for example. And then reliable and efficient. So both for the customer-facing interactions, but also on the back end, both internally at LTD for our administrative functions, and also for our partners, whether they're mobility services providers or our institutional partners that interact with the fare system on a regular basis. So to achieve those objectives, we know that some things have to change. Our current system is just not capable of doing those things right now. So some of the things that need to change to achieve the objectives are to introduce software, hardware, and policy around open account-based payments. So to enable tapping your credit card, there's some work to do both on the hardware and the software and policy side to enable that. This gets into validator compatibility. So our current validators on our vehicles are an older generation design that's been around for some time. There are new validators that have much better capabilities that can enable some of the things that we'd like to do here. Simplified fare structure. So at some point, we will get into revisiting our fare policy and thinking about how we update our fare policy to be aligned with this future system. So that's something that's on the horizon. Integrated programs and eligibility. Are there ways that we can streamline our existing programs or better partner with other services? For example, I already talked about the bike share system tonight. Can we coordinate our programs and eligibility with bike share or other mobility services so that people have a range of different mobility options to select from if they're receiving some sort of subsidized pass? Data and mobility integration. So this is largely focused on the back end system. So how do we bring our various administrative financial systems in line so that they're all operating smoothly and the data and the dollars work through the system easily? There's work to be done there. Retail and cash to digital access. So most people probably don't know that you can actually go to a certain number of retail outlets right now to put you can put your stored value on your cards at retail locations, but we're just not maximizing that, and so that's an area we'd like to expand through this process as well, is just to give people the opportunities to not necessarily have to pay cash on the vehicle, but they can exchange cash at a retail outlet or other location to get value on their card that way. And then finally, reliability and security, making sure that there are strong protections built into the next system just to ensure against fraud or other sorts of security issues. So I talked about objectives and then some of the system and technology changes that need to happen. And the next step of this process was then to develop a range of different options that we might select from to get us moving down this path. So we looked at, or we came up with 4 potential pathways or options. These are 1 through 4 on the screen here. You'll see number 1, maintain status quo. Number 2, optimize the current system and make incremental improvements. Number 3, design the full system and develop a request for proposals that packages it all up into one project. And then number 4, join a multi-region fare collection system. And you'll see a little asterisk next to the number 4 because it's largely theoretical. The one existing example of this option is up in the Portland metro area, where Portland's hop card is shared between Streetcar, TriMet, and C-Tran in Vancouver. I'll get into the reason why we don't want to go there now, but I will say that us taking the lead and doing this work actually puts us in a position, or LTD in a position, to be that regional mobility manager with our fare system within Lane County. So in terms of the different options, we sat down with our consultants and we thought through the different trade-offs. So upfront cost versus long-term value. So option 1, which is the status quo option, it's sort of the lowest cost option, but it doesn't enable sort of any of the objectives that we are fairly certain that we want to achieve with the new system. Options 3 and 4 require a bit more resources up front, but they'll have a better longer-term value and scalability. In terms of risk and disruption, option 1 carries a high ongoing operational risk. As you heard from Cosette, we have some technical obsolescence issues, as well as some system deficiencies that will only get worse if we stick with the current system. Option 2, it balances risk with moderate improvements. And again, option 2 is sort of status quo, but making some incremental improvements. Through quite a number of internal conversations, we determined that this was not the right option for us, and that it would actually take more resources to implement over time, rather than just focusing on the full new system at once. Control versus collaboration. Option 3, again, this is the full system redesign, gives us full local control. We can really design that how we want and need to best serve our community. Option 4, which was the regional system, potentially working with TriMet up in the Portland region, basically removes all of our local control. And we have heard from some of the other participants in the hop card that that has been a real challenge. So for example, if you want to go change your fare policy, you have to work with the owner of that system to do that. So we want to be cautious of that. And then finally, user experience and integration. Options 1 and 2 really provide limited improvements, if at all. Options 3 and 4 can deliver that seamless, equitable, and integrated experience that we're determined to provide here. So I've already sort of talked about this, but option 3 is the option that we landed on to pursue. And that is to migrate to the new platform. This is the best aligned with our objectives and expected outcomes for the system. It allows us to modernize our system to provide that seamless and convenient experience for every rider every time. And it delivers an open architecture fare platform that protects the UMO contract value. It enables phased risk management and positions LTD for that flexible, scalable, long-term solution. And I think this is the first time I've used the term open architecture, so I'll just take a moment to explain what that means. Basically, to make sure that we are buying in as much as possible non-proprietary products that are capable of working with different systems. So we don't want to get stuck with something that's a proprietary system that really limits our ability to customize or fine tune for the objectives that we've talked about here. All right, so in terms of implementation and next steps, now that we've wrapped up this roadmap process, I think the way that I sort of am visualizing this right now is sort of like we're in a hourglass sort of. We've taken a bunch of information up here. We've sort of narrowed it down to the path that we want to go into, and now it breaks out into multiple work streams. So again, this is a complex project with multiple work streams coming out of it. So I'll talk a little bit about what those look like right now. One of the first tasks that we need to get started on is a fare policy and fare revenue analysis. So that is a discrete project that we'll be kicking off within the next 6 to 12 months or sooner, potentially. The next step is determining the internal structure. So Cosette alluded to this a little bit, where there's dispersed and shared ownership of various elements of the fare structure. So we're going to be looking at our staffing within LTD, not talking about adding new staff or new FTE here, but talking about what the roles and responsibilities should look like across functions to support this work. Then comes hardware. So we need to determine the hardware system requirements. And like I said, we're interested in going with open architecture products that allow maximum flexibility without getting locked into a certain proprietary product. Software and services. So this is really the back end and the piece that sort of holds everything together. And that is UMO today. And then next, you'll see there around 2027, we're talking about preparing and issuing the RFP for the new system. So 2028 follows with designing the new fare system, and then, 2029 is the proposed launch of the new system. And this timeline is fungible. So this is kind of like, this is where we're at right now. It's possible it could take less time, but we do have some different work streams ahead of us to get moving on this project. All right, with that, I'll conclude and see if you have any questions for Cosette and I.
Any questions about the hodgepodge?
Great report. I never imagined the complexity of the fare system. So it became very clear after I read through everything. You talked about a long-term solution. How long-term are you talking about?
Yeah, so I think your question is what's sort of the lifespan of a system? We implemented UMO. Do you want to speak to kind of the history of UMO, where we're at now, and maybe where we'd anticipate the lifespan?
So we implemented UMO in 2019. We implemented in the summer of 2019. And then about 8 months later, COVID hit, and we suspended all of our fare collection. So we weren't collecting fares for about a year and a half. And then we re-implemented. We initially launched with Delarock, which was a different company. And then Delarock was purchased by Cubic. Actually, it was purchased by somebody else and then by Cubic, which happens a lot. So, and actually Cubic made a lot of investments and improvements in the functionality. So what we have today is better than what we started with. And I think to some extent, when we talk about longevity, it depends to some extent on how successful we are at getting those non-proprietary equipment. So sometimes maybe you might want to change your software before you change your hardware. But I would say somewhere between 8 and 10 years. Our contract with UMO was an initial 6-year with 2 opportunities to extend for 2 more years. And I think that that's reasonable. I think that actually, if we were to do it, I would do it just like that again. And the 6-year base with 2 years extensions.
Yeah, one thing to comment on is there's been, I'd say, a maturation of these systems and hardware over the last few years. So a lot has changed, but really the key is for us in terms of longevity is to really think ahead. And that is the purpose of this project, is to make sure that we're being very thorough with our analysis and making sure that we are leaving that flexibility so that we have hardware that is compatible with different systems. So we're not necessarily in the future, if we do have to upgrade a system or the hardware, we're not locked into a particular product. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kelly's still there, okay. Okay, now we're going into the monthly finance report. Pete, our treasurer, will you take it over for us?
Thank you. So as we've been doing this every month, as you all know, the finance report is basically a revenue in, expenses out report. It's not a full accounting of everything. That being said, this is kind of a special one, if you will, because it is the end of it reflects the 2/3 of the way, or the third quarter of the fiscal year. And the story here to this month, or this report, is that we are basically right on track of where we expect to be, and it's kind of easy to look at because you'll see numbers right around that 75% mark for especially revenue, and so we are looking very good to be right on track to have a good final end of the year revenue and expense be exactly where we expect it to be. If there's any questions? Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the agenda that board members would like to separate for discussion?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
Second?
Okay, thank you. So let's have a roll call vote. Lawrence?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Susan? Yes? Gino?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
And Kelly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. The motion moves. And we're going to, let's see, from here, we're going to go into board actions. I'll pass this over to Jameson.
CFO, we go through the
Thank you. In your packet is the full budget document, so I'm just going to go over a few of the high points of that document. And but first, I would like to say thank you to our budget committee members for their service. We did have a budget committee meeting. It went very well, had a lot of information, and I do appreciate their participation in the process. So our public transportation industry continues to face challenges, including federal policy uncertainty, funding shortages, workforce gaps, remote work trends, and competition. Despite these pressures, though, Lane Transit District reports a strong financial position due to our long-term financial planning and our substantial reserves. The fiscal year 26-27 budget includes progress toward our service increase goals that we set 2 years ago. Expansion of the State Transportation Improvement Fund projects, continued investment in our capital projects, and use of our financial reserves to support our near-term operations. Revenue highlights include operating revenue is projected to increase slightly over the current budget year. As noted earlier, ridership, it remains relatively flat. Fare revenue has now returned to our pre-pandemic levels, which has been one of the goals that we've been working toward, but fares now cover a smaller share of our operating costs. For example, in fiscal year 18-19, fares covered almost 10% of our operating requirements. Currently, they cover 5.7%. Payroll taxes remain our largest revenue source and are expected to increase 7.4%, which are supported by wage and employment growth forecasts. Our federal and state funding is also increasing and is important for how we're using it purposefully in our operating area for hiring and retaining operators, mechanics, and public safety staff, covering staffing impacts from Oregon paid leave, and also supporting our expanded service through our STIF funding. One thing to note that you might have seen in the financial report is our pandemic era federal funding relief funds have been fully exhausted as of last year. So going forward, these are any federal money that we're using are federal formula funds that we're allowed to use for operating and then also capital expenses. Under expenditures, of course, personnel costs are our biggest budget challenge. We continue to experience some staffing shortages. The ones that were noted in the budget document are 19 operations staff vacancies, 2 public safety officer vacancies, and 4 mechanic vacancies. Our wage increases across the bargaining units are 2.5% to 4%. That's using the current ATU contract, and we are currently in negotiations for the contract that will start July 1st. Our administrative staff are budgeted for 2% cost of living increases and up to 3% performance increases. Those would be effective on July 1st. Other cost areas are material and services. We used a 3.9% as that's what we ended up as our cost increase compared to last year. In those areas, we have technology, which increased 1.3 million from last year to this next year. And our costs for insurance and paid leave and workers' comp have also increased. So overall, LTD believes our budget positions the agency to remain financially stable while continuing to provide safe, reliable, and sustainable transportation services. Now, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the budget.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Sometimes when you prepare a budget, there are things that don't fit into the budget. Are there any of those items, and what would be the highest priority if you had additional resources?
Well, I think the biggest surprise to me this year was just the increase in technology cost. I had expected insurance, and we've been preparing for technology for the last couple of years, but there has been a really sharp increase in that. And then I think the thing I would add back if I had a magic wand to be able to do that is for our medical costs to flatten. So we did put a 5% increase in our medical costs, and they have actually stayed at 5% the last 2 years. But if we could lower that to 0%, that would be ideal. On the staffing area, we actually were able to fit what we wanted into the staff projection. Of course, not all of those positions are filled at this time, but we were able to fit those in. So I was really happy to see that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
With the increase in fuel costs, is that in here anywhere, or we're just?
So 2 years ago, we anticipated a really large increase that was right on the heels, if you remember, the 8% inflation. So we really beefed up our parts and our fuel area, and we've actually been under budget substantially in that for the last 2 years. And when we looked at that this year and where we're going to, and currently where we should project next year, we felt like just the regular 3.9% that was the overall inflation increase was going to be enough. Yeah, so yeah, it is for this year. Next year, if they stay high, yeah, we'll see. Mhm.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay. So can we have a motion?
I move adoption of resolution number 2026-05-20-15, adopting the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget.
Second.
Second, Pete, thank you. Okay, roll call. I'll start with you, Pete.
Yes?
Gino?
Yes?
Susan, yes. Michelle?
Yes.
Lawrence?
Yes. Yes.
And Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moves unanimously. So now we're going into executive, or do we have the one other? Yeah, okay. Are you going to present that? Thank you.
Well, and I'll invite Carmen and Pam back up just in case there's any questions. But I'll present this. In front of you is a resolution to adopt a temporary fare reduction for district services effective July 1 through August 31, as has been affectionately called a fare sale. So we are allowed to temporarily reduce and or eliminate fares. You heard Cosette talk about the elimination of fares during COVID. That was an example of that. But temporary reductions or eliminations with the desire to promote increased usage of our service. And when we look at the position that we're in financially, the good work that our finance team has done, by no means do we want to be frivolous, but we do feel like there's an opportunity to provide services to our communities that may need it as costs continue to escalate, to look at how we promote our services. We did not want to go to a zero fare. Zero fare has many challenges associated with it. Zero fare often means, in some minds, zero value. We want to make sure there's a value to the service that we provide. Additionally, we know the challenges that many transit agencies, including this one, saw during the pandemic with zero fares. And if you talk to many of our frontline employees, they each have an opinion on that and a story to share, I'm sure. So the idea here is to look at our lowest ridership season. You know, the students are out. Families are experiencing different dynamics in terms of the economics. We are in a position to be able to try to use this to promote ridership, but also to promote LTD as a solution within our community. We see what's happening in Portland with TriMet having to reduce service. We see what's happening in Rogue Valley with them having to reduce personnel. We're not in that position, and at a time where we can encourage people to try another option that can help to make ends meet in households within the service area is what we're trying to do. So we wanted to do a limited term, short term reduction. So that's why we chose the 2 months beginning July 1, August 31. And I've invited Pam and Carmen here if you have any questions around the legality or the regulatory questions that may arise, and also in terms of the revenue numbers that are associated. So with that, we'll take any questions.
It's blinking red.
There it goes.
I'm green. The timing, July, August. Why July, August compared to any other 2 months?
There we go. Thank you. Thank you for that question. We think that the timing is right. Now, we would try to do it earlier if we could, but there's some work that needs to be done with the programming. There's some public work that needs to happen in communications. But we feel that time frame, as you know, as the economy is where it stands right now, is a good time for us to introduce people to another form of services that again can help make ends meet. Gina, we've been spending a lot of time around the that United Way Alice report and looking at community needs, and we feel that the more we can introduce people to public transportation, the more they can see how it works for them and realize that savings.
Kelly?
Yes, can you tell us what the projected loss in revenue will be?
I'm going to turn to Pam.
Yes. Yes, so there's really two pieces to it. So we have our regular fares, and our regular fares typically do drop down during July and August, and predicting at 50% at the reduction in fares, and it shouldn't be quite that much, but at a 50% reduction in fares, that would be around $400,000. Now, and the other part that is our Group Pass program. So our Group Pass program, we also are going to offer this reduced amount to the employers that participate in that program. And that program is more level throughout the year, but according to the calculations that we've seen, it will also be around a $400,000 reduction. So we're looking at about $800,000 to $900,000. And that's assuming that our ridership stays level and a 50% discount. After we finish the actual fare schedule, the discount is slightly less than that, more about 43%, and we are definitely hoping for an increase in ridership. So that would be worst case scenario.
Are you looking for any other areas to offset that reduction or that loss?
So we're, no, right now the plan is to use our reserve and to take that or make up that difference out of the reserve. But I do have a couple of different reserves, so we may be able to reduce transfers to some of the other funds and then offset or have less expenses during the year. So that's another option that I'm looking at, but we'll have to kind of wait and see how this turns out. So by October or November, we'll have a better idea of what that is.
So we just approved the long-range financial plan. Can you describe in general terms the impact of this decision on that plan?
All other things being equal, so no reduction in any transfers or any other way to be able to make this up, so everything else is equal, then right now our projection is that our reserves will dip below our required amounts in year approximately 9. So this will move that back a little bit to 8.5, which if you were part of our long-range financial plan discussions in the fall, that's about where we were in the fall, was 8.5 years out. So we still have a lot of time to be able to plan for continuing the reserves.
When we don't, or we reduce the transfers, what's the impact of that?
Well, so I budget every year, and that it has to do with the capital expenditures. So every year we plan for a certain amount of capital expenditures during the year. A lot of them get delayed. You know, buses don't come in when you expect them to come in, yet I've already set aside money out of our budget for those specific expenditures. So in past years, we continued to make those transfers. We had planned to make them out of the general fund, so we continued to do those. So the result of that is that we have built up also quite a nice reserve in our capital fund as well. So if I need to, which is not reflected in our 8.5 to 9 year projection, that projection is specifically for our operating money. So if we found that we really needed to somehow make up this $900,000 during the year, and it didn't look like that we wanted to dip into our reserves, then I would reduce the capital contribution to the capital fund, and then we would use capital fund reserves to fund some of those projects. But every year, projects get delayed. I don't need quite as much money to transfer over, and so I have that option as well.
So this doesn't in any way put LTD at financial risk or exposure?
No, I might also point out that the last 2 years, we've been substantially under budget in expenditures. I anticipate we'll be under budget again this year in our expenditures, and we've, continued to budget conservatively. So I guess that would give us our final option, is that we do come in under budget, and that revenue is not necessary to balance the budget. But the short answer to your question is no, I feel comfortable doing this for a short period of time. To see if it is able to increase our ridership and has the benefit to the community that we're expecting.
How do we plan to communicate and market this out to a larger population to encourage more ridership?
Probably have to call our marketing.
I just going to say that would be a great question. Yeah.
Well, while Eric's coming forward, I would just like to say that little exercise that we go through when they present the ALICE project is pretty illuminating. And especially when you look at the number of people in our community who are within those boundaries or that demographic. And with everything that's happening right now, can only imagine that that's tighter budget for families. So I think one of the things that this highlights for me is another opportunity for LTD to be ahead of what everyone else is doing, that other transit companies probably are not in a position to do what an LTD is. And it also, I think, sends a very strong signal to our community that we have listened and we're caring about them. So, but I would like to hear how we're going to tell everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share a little bit about our marketing plan for this. So we're in the process of developing a comprehensive campaign to highlight this as a really affordable way for our community to reach summer destinations and activities. That includes a mix of our own channels, such as signage across our stations, opportunities we have to reach current riders through channels such as transit apps, social media, our website. But we're also looking to invest in community partnerships and advertising as well. And in particular, advertising that reaches people who are currently driving. So that could include a radio campaign. We have some space on digital billboards in both Eugene and Springfield that would be well positioned to promote this type of initiative. So we want to really transition a lot of our marketing space over the summer to highlight this for the benefit of the community.
With this will also take place during track town season, right? And so this is something we can market to visitors who have come from other places?
Absolutely. And I think reaching out to our partners at Traveling County, as well as the hospitality industry, could be a really great way to promote this to visitors as well.
Oh, Kelly, sorry.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe you could reach out to your nonprofit partners as well, those that are receiving discounted fares already, just to let them know that it's happening and ask them to share with their clients.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, one of the initial things we're working on is a letter to our nonprofit partners to highlight this initiative, and also developing a marketing kit that would include posters, social media graphics that they can share through their channels too.
Just a couple of comments. First comment is, wish we would have had a little more of a heads up on this issue so we could ponder it. The second comment is I'm in favor of it. We're not really in the business of accumulating reserves. We're in the business of providing services that people need. And the fact that we have the reserves there is a good thing. So this is a good use of reserves, and I like it.
Okay, are we ready for a motion? Or Gino, or excuse me, Jameson, do you have something?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. You heard Dave talk about the our fair policy, talking about the fair policy. So I want to acknowledge that this, I agree with Gina, this is a good short-term use of reserves. We will have to have a conversation while we're in good shape, our long-range financial plan. We have not revisited our fair policy in some time, and we'll need to talk about that in the next year and a half or so to really think through it. So I don't want this to be a signal that we're trying to do a long-term usage of our reserves. I want to be realistic that this is a short-term promotional piece to help our community, to introduce them to a new service, and we will have the fair conversation at a later date.
Ms. Kelly, are you ready for a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 2026-20-16, approving a temporary fare reduction for Lane Transit District services effective July 1, 2026 through August 31st, 2026.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, so Lawrence,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Gino,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Susan. So moves unanimously. Thank you. And I think now we're moving into executive session. So the Lane Transit District Board of Directors will now enter an executive session pursuant to ORS 192-6602D, which allows the board to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Following the executive session, the board will not return to regular session and the board meeting will adjourn. So designated staff and representatives of the news media may remain in the room, and all other members of the public are asked to leave at this time. And we thank you for having attended as you leave.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.